Hey, it's Mario Toneguzzi. Here's a new episode of 5 Questions. Be my next guest on 5 Questions by clicking on the link below and we'll contact you. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to 5 Questions with Mario Toneguzzi. Joining me today is Usman Jat, who is president of Chirp Foods in Calgary. Thanks for joining us today, Usman.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start with a campaign that you were involved in called 3 Things for Neighbours. You started the campaign, social media campaign. Tell me a little bit about what it is and why you started it.
Yeah, it was early days in this pandemic that we're all still dealing with, and I think we're all tired of it. But in early days, I remember it was really difficult opening up a newspaper, talking to anybody without that negative undertone of what was going on. Mm-hmm. It was a really scary time. We didn't know how bad this was going to get. Cases were rising. And I just thought, hey, what if we just found a way to connect with our neighbors? And it started to create a little bit of physical distance between us, right? Because we had to. But it didn't mean that it was the end for us to be able to say hi or hello. So it was just a quick way to capture some positivity and encourage people to reach out to those around you. And we just came up with this 3 Things for Neighbours, really from, it was a concept that was familiar to Calgary. We had gone through fires, we've gone through floods here in Calgary, fires in Alberta, in northern Alberta. So it was just a way for us to really connect, reach out, and see if we can do really some small, simple things for the people that are around us that we might not be connecting with on a day-to-day basis.
Now, obviously a very community-oriented initiative. You obviously think community, giving back to community and supporting community is important. Why are you passionate, I guess, in this area?
So I wouldn't be where I am without the community that's around me. And I think that's something that I am grateful for every day. I know that the crew, the managers that work for me live in this community. It's important that I think if this community succeeds, it only succeeds if people recognize the support that it plays for us. So for people who are sitting there and are fortunate enough to be able to do something for the community, I think they absolutely should, because I don't think they would be where they are without that community. And even for those that are at the starting point of their career, I still think that they need to keep front and center where they are. You know, we're lucky to be in Calgary. Mm-hmm. Whether there's a pandemic, whether there's a flood, I think this is a wonderful city, and for us to be able to keep that front and center is only going to make this community a lot stronger going forward.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be able to receive our newest updates. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. So Usman, you were the youngest franchise owner of a McDonald's in Canada, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So having and owning more than a dozen in the Calgary area, just wondering how business has been for you in the past year and obviously currently, because you know, being in Alberta and Calgary, you've had to deal with the pandemic, obviously, like everyone else, but then you get the double whammy in Calgary with the oil patch downturn. What's business been like?
You know, business has been okay. We could do without a recession. Mm-hmm. Any business owner could, and we definitely could do without the pandemic. But it's taken a toll. It's taken a toll personally, a toll that I didn't expect. I know I'm fortunate because my business is still operating and it's still doing relatively well. And some of my colleagues, they're never going to be able to open their restaurants again, and they've lost something that they've built to no fault of their own.
Yeah.
Right. And that's been personally devastating to watch some of my close friends go through that. But personally, I watch my staff and I see how they're managing, and they're worried about, hours. They're worried about how they're going to be able to survive this pandemic, what life looks like for them. So I think it's taken an opportunity for us to personally reflect. I've been fortunate to have good friends who have been checking in on me. I know the community, like the Calgary Chamber, reached out and had me do a little bit of a talk on mental health. And it really forced me to look internally and admit freely that, hey, at 6 weeks of this, I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And I needed to reach out. But thankfully, when I reached out, many people were there to say, hey, we're also going through this. We're also not okay. And I think the more we're able to talk about those really bad days, the better it's going to be for getting through whatever you're going through personally. But I also think it's going to be better for the economy just building those contacts and connections.
What's your advice for entrepreneurs who are going through these tough times and struggling and maybe just at the point of trying to figure out whether or not to continue with their business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like I go back to telling people at your core, you're an entrepreneur, right? And I'll speak to it from a COVID perspective. Nobody planned for this, right? This is something that, you built something and it got destroyed. But go back to when you built it, right? Go back to channel that person in you, because that's what made you an entrepreneur. And it might be extremely dark today. It might feel impossible. You might not have any money to start up again. But again, I go back to where we are. We're in Calgary, we're in Alberta. And there's friends and there's family and there's a community around you that's going to be willing to support you. And I think if people were to put that entrepreneurial spirit back at the front burner and start investing in our community, I think the community will respond. And reach out and talk. Like I did something on social media where I opened up my Twitter, I opened up my LinkedIn to be able to tell people, hey, if you're going through something and you think I might be able to offer assistance, reach out and I'll try and get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you mentioned entrepreneurial spirit. Where does that come from for you, and what do you like and enjoy about being an entrepreneur?
So I've always been an entrepreneur. Like I started my first business when I was 18. So for me, it's that thrill of being able to solve an impossible problem. Okay. And I think that's the junkie inside of me that just wants to go and find things that are really difficult and find solutions for those really difficult problems. I thrive on the people around me, right? And I'm fortunate to be able to employ so many young people, and they just give me a lot more energy than I can ever give them. And I think I'm able to channel that and be able to really, reflect the community that we want, and work towards building a better city for all of us. So I think entrepreneurship in Calgary, we've always been a city that's always taken a few extra blows than maybe other places in Canada, right? But we've stood the test. We've stood the test for hundreds of years, and I think for the next hundreds of years, we're still going to be here, trailblazing and making new things.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much for joining us
today. Yeah, you're
today.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
That was Usman Jatt, who is president of Chirp Foods in Calgary. This has been 5 Questions with Mario Toneguzzi. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember, if you want someone you know to be our next guest, click below in our description. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe so you'll never miss an episode.